but marketing, the number one marketing agency for dispensaries in both Canada and the United States. And I'm joined here by Jack Allen, the founder of POS Posse. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, man. I had some good talks with my man Brandon before, so very excited about being able to come on here and kind of talk to this guy about all this good stuff today. So
Awesome. Well, we're in for a really good one. So why don't you just give the audience a quick intro, tell them a little bit about yourself.
For sure. So Jack Allen, some people know me as Greg, but in the industry they know me as Jack. Just because they say I'm like a jack of all trades. I've touched so many different parts of the industry, so call me Jack. So Jack Allen of POS Posse, a new consulting firm here in Michigan, mostly in the Metro Detroit area. We help out a lot of shops, deliveries, and also brands with specifically like Weedmaps menu integration. And also like retail digital menu management. So just helping them pretty much with all the systems that they have they're dealing with, mostly Weedmaps, but Leafly, whatever systems they're dealing with, we pretty much help manage all of those systems for them.
Nice. So how'd you get into this? What was the beginning?
So beginning was been in the cannabis industry for quite a while, just in different facets, like as far as helping just like some of the homies in the grow rooms, in the basement to that, going to the homies now getting retail shops and getting bigger cultivations and kind of helping them set up like marketing and stuff for that. And then I actually got hired into Weedmaps like 4 years ago. So I always call it like my graduation because it's like I spent 4 years there and then I like graduated into my own consulting firm. So started at Weedmaps in here in Detroit, was like doing like field marketing for them. So I got like hands-on with a lot of the retail shops here. Good relationships with the brands and things like that, new shops coming out. And fast forward through those 4 years, I just gained a lot of knowledge from marketing, programmatic ads, just like every type of digital cannabis related ad you can really get into outside of stuff that you really can't do. So took that knowledge and formed POS Posse because when I was actually in the field, I kept getting questions on, hey, do you have somebody to help us do this Weedmap stuff? Like, it's so much that you guys have in that world that we don't have a person dedicated to just that. They usually have like a GM or a budtender or a staff of team, but no one specifically handles all of the functions of Weedmaps, which is its own world. So I kind of leaned into that after leaving Weedmaps and took it and ran with it. Went back to some of the shops that I had relationships with, and they were excited to kind of give me a try. They trusted my my vision, and from things that I kind of worked with them at actual Weedmaps, they took that and said, this guy has experience and he knows what he's talking about. So cultivated into POS Posse, and here I am about 4 or 5 months later. We started at the beginning of the year, so it's primarily pretty new so far.
Nice. Well, as I say to all entrepreneurs, congratulations on embarking on this this journey, if you will.
Thanks, man.
Not the grass isn't always greener on the other side, but I'm telling you, when things get sorted out, it's really really nice. So congrats on that. That's cool. Great. So before we go into kind of like all of that expertise, I want to backtrack a little bit because 4 years in the Weedmap space, especially with all of the changes and regulations and compliance and stuff, that's like pretty big. So I'm just kind of curious, like, what did that landscape look like from when you first started looking at Weedmaps to when like it was like, oh yes, okay, everything is nice and legal and everything's good, and then like competitors start coming in? Like, what did the landscape look like initially? You're the OG in the space, if you will, compared to like kind of like now in the 2023.
Yeah, so man, 4 years ago, so I started off in like the Michigan market, but they're located in California. So it was like an interesting kind of situation where I had to kind of like launch this Michigan market type situation. And Michigan and California are kind of neck and neck now as far as like their maturity level. California is still like the most mature, but Michigan is pretty far up there. But at the time, just dealing with Michigan, it was really wild west, man. It was like licensing was really sketchy. So there were like unlicensed shops on there with licensed shops, and they're like battling back and forth, like because the unlicensed shops are making so much money.
Yeah.
So it was like a big battle going on in there. So I kind of lived through all of that transition from, extremely wild west on Weedmaps to more tightened up, I guess more constricted licensing rules that were going on Weedmaps. So making sure that all the licensed shops are on there and things like that. I kind of lived through that. Along with that, I was also working in Illinois at the time too, which was not legal at all. So I actually helped them like pretty much launch, I guess, like their weekend for the legal market when it kind of went up there. I think that might have been like All-Star Weekend as well, one of those years, because that was like the year that COVID kind of hit.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a time because like everything was so new. And I feel like it was probably the best time for a lot of shops because it was like that kind of like that new taste in Michigan where it's like, hey, it's new now, so let's all just go buy weed. So everyone's
Yeah.
like making so much money. I
Yeah.
mean, not to say they're not making money now, but like it was like a real rush at that point, like a kind of like a gold mine rush because there's like new stores popping up all around. So like yeah, living through that, man. I mean, through that whole period was pretty exciting. And then I actually got a chance to work in the California market too. Like
Mm,
once COVID actually came and everybody had to be locked down, had opportunity to work with a few shops in the California market too. So that gave me experience on learning like how mature their market was in comparison to ours, right?
right.
So like here in Michigan, you bump into more, I would call them like, I guess, mom and pop shops.
Yep.
A lot of them are still owned here, so like they may have one shop here or possibly two if you have enough capital. Usually, like the owner is everything, the
Wears
accountant,
all the hats.
accounting guy, marketing. He's wearing everything.
Yeah.
But then when I started working with the Cali shops, it's like, all right, they have an accounting department, they have a compliance department, they have a sales department, they have all of these different sectors that are built out. So it was a great experience to be able to get like that portion of it and then kind of bring that knowledge back to like these smaller Michigan guys as well. There's some big Michigan guys too here, but like to bring that knowledge back to the smaller guys helped out a lot, I think, for sure.
So so we'll touch on, kind of the differences between a mom and pop shop and, what makes a more established business an established business and kind of like all the best business practices and stuff. But so on the back end, so like when you had the kind of gray market, black market, unlicensed dealer, whatever you want to call them on Weedmaps, right? What was the offboarding process like when you essentially told these people like, hey, you're making a lot of money on our platform, but due to compliance issues, we can't have you on our platform anymore. How did that go?
So there was like I remember there was like a sweep that happened,
Yeah.
like with all of the unlicensed shops,
Yeah.
because not only was like Weed Maps getting the hammer put down on them because they're going towards moving into a public direction. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I joined them when
Mainstream.
they were still a private company. So once they got in towards that the equity sector, it's like okay, we got to really start putting the hammer down on what's going on online. So um outside of that, like here in Michigan, there were also like just like raids and stuff going on
Yeah.
with like those, those illicit shops that were still operating. So it was kind of like, man, it it was well received from the legal shops,
Sure.
the
Of
ones that had
course.
their
Of course
licenses,
it was. Yeah.
because they're like, well, hey, it's a long time coming. Like we've been waiting
Yeah.
for this. But the caveat to it is like everyone started off in this illicit sector. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
like to hear the arguments from some of the guys who have become more mature, they've gotten their licensing together, they're all legal, and they're like, yeah, man, this guy he's down the street and he's doing blah blah blah. And we're like, you were doing that like a year ago, bro. Like just
Yeah.
cool
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're probably still getting their stuff together. So it was like you had to kind of play devil's advocate in some cases because it's like we're trying to get them off. We're
Mm.
trying to make sure that everyone has opportunity to also get their paperwork in order and X, Y, and Z. So it was an interesting time to live through, man. Like you're the best friends for some, and then you're like a mortal enemy to another, and
Yeah.
then it's like reversed the next week. So
Yeah.
it was a ride.
So rolling with the punches in this the rocky time of the cannabis industry.
Yeah, man. It was a ride for sure.
That's exciting. That's exciting. So yeah, it sounds like you have a lot of stories, a lot of reference experience to just kind of talk about. So kind of back to the POS Posse stuff. I know you do a lot. I think it's what is it, POSposse.com? That's the website. So
Yep.
you do a bunch of things. So like, why should people kind of work with you? Like, what do you bring to the table for these dispensary owners? Just like, yeah, okay, I'll bring this jack of all trades to kind of work on my stuff.
For sure, man. So, kind of going back to my original point when I was kind of going into like these shops, like knocking on doors, just introducing myself. Hey, I'm a guy working for Weedmaps, blah blah blah. Everyone already knew what Weedmaps was, but again, they had that void where it's like, um, they're okay. So Weedmaps costs us a lot of money. Number one,
Yes.
all right,
Yeah.
it's
I've
pretty
heard.
expensive. Yeah,
I've
it's
heard.
pretty expensive. So if you're not using everything on there, you feel like you're wasting your money. So the biggest thing for me and my company, what we come in and do is there's still a void with that, right? There's
Mm,
shops that pay $4, $5, $6, $7, $8,000 a month to Weedmaps and completely just leave it out there as a menu, like just have their menu items on there and they just want it to work. But that's not the way it works in order for you to increase your return on ad spend.
mhm.
So what we come in and do is, or what I come in and do, because I have this experience from Weedmaps, is if you're spending 4 or 5 grand, you should be making like 5, 6x that on Weedmaps, like alone, because
Right.
it's generally how powerful the service is. And I mean, just speaking from experience, I've seen it really work from some, and I've seen it do totally terrible for some. It all depends on how you use that formula. So when my team or myself comes in and I'm able to manage that menu for you, I'm able to verify all of your products. We have growers here who are fully integrated, right? They have their own brand. They're selling their own brand through the dispensary. But if I'm on Weedmaps and I'm looking for your product or something like that on there and they're not typing it in correctly, or you're not on there as a brand, then no one's going to be able to find you. So I
Right.
come in, I verify those products for you, make sure that's done for you on a daily basis. If you've got 200 products on there, 150 of those need to be verified, right? So
Mhm.
I can easily go there and see you have, Gary Payton or whatever, wherever you are closest to me, I can quickly get it, go straight to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, generally we're able to increase like return on ad spend by 35%. With in most cases,
Right.
depending on like the type of products you're using. But the biggest thing is helping, and you can see this on our website too, is helping customers use what they already have to increase
Mm,
return ad spend. That's the biggest message. So a lot of times they're using, this function, these ecosystems, Weedmaps, Leafly, the POS side of it, right? Trees, Dutchy, all these different point of sale systems, FlowHub. A lot of them integrate with Weedmaps and some of them don't, right? Whether they do or don't, me and my team are able to come in and help, seamlessly do that integration for you, or on the back end, help manage the menu if it's not seamlessly integrated. So a lot of those small nuances that help business owners kind of work more effectively, we're able to come in and clean those parts up so that you're able to kind of work on the business and keeping that afloat.
right. So it sounds like you very much kind of improve efficiencies on their existing tech stack, whether it's the marketing, POS, or whatever it is on the back end, right? So are you telling me that even though most dispensaries have these different softwares, they're just like not using them properly? They're just paying the money and then that's about it? Like that's typically what you're seeing?
100%. 100%. That's what I'm saying. I mean, we gotta like in the reality, like when I talk to a lot, and also another thing I found out as in my time in cannabis is working with a lot of
Yeah.
these business owners is many of them don't come from the cannabis industry, like right? Like
Mm,
they're like attorneys or they may be an ex doctor or whatever
yes,
the case
yes, yes.
is. They usually don't come from the industry. So, with that being said, oftentimes they're not too knowledgeable on where you can market and how you can market, especially with cannabis, right? They result to like
Mm,
Facebook and Instagram, and like they're constantly in those pages shut down, blah, blah, blah. And then once you go to Weedmaps and they're trying to like use these products, they just throw their money at Weedmaps because they heard it works for blah, 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 blah. So let me throw 10K at Weedmaps and we just gonna hope it works for
see what
3 or 4
happens.
months.
Mm,
And that's just not the way it works. Like there's so many small things you have to go in there and tweak and kind of make this your own, describe this, similar to how you, and I've talked to you before just about SEO, you know what I mean? And keywords and things like that. It works the same way on Weedmaps. Like everything is a keyword away. So if
yeah.
you don't have those things set up, if you don't have your menu verified, if you don't have, pictures of your retail shop on there, all these things that could pop up on Google, it's not gonna work and it's not gonna be as beneficial as you would want it to be with you just throwing 10, 12, 50K a month at these guys,
Right.
because it happens. You know what I mean? So you got to be cognizant of those things.
Right. So what are you seeing in most cases with kind of these shops that like what are they typically, I guess the question is not doing, right? What are you typically finding that they not do? So when you go into a shop and you're like, they probably haven't done one, two, three, four, five, right? Like what are those things typically that they haven't sorted out for those that are listening?
So the main thing is more so like is gonna be there like just their menu engagement, like on their
Mm,
Weedmaps menu. So I actually was talking to a shop that's literally maybe 2 miles down the road from me. Brand new shop. It opened up on 420, so less than 3 months ago. Um, and I found them on Weedmaps. What I was looking for specific. I'm a snob with my cannabis, so I'm looking for a specific strain. So I'm looking for Mac One or Gary Payton or something that I had that gave me a good effect. As I'm looking for that, I see all of these places around them, but I don't see them right there with
them.
these
Yeah.
particular things, right? So I just go because it's close anyway, and they actually had these products that were in there. So obviously
Oh,
that's my opening to like, here's my card. This is what I do. I'm able to help you guys out with X, Y, and Z on you guys' menu. So in doing that, I guess I would say I kind of lost my train of thought there.
what's
Um,
the lowest hanging fruit? Like, what are the lowest hanging fruit that you typically see that dispensary owners aren't typically doing? So, I guess the point
oh,
you were making is that like product lines up with weed maps, and there's not a proper integration between the two. So, even though they have a product in the store, they're not selling it online, and then like in most cases, people won't even go because they're like, oh, well, they don't have this product in stock in the first place.
exactly. And in many cases, also another disconnect I would say is that they also have a website, right? So the website may not reflect the same products that are on their Weed Maps listing. So that whole kind of like, I guess, making sure that those two menus are in sync, that
Mm,
they have the same product line, or even if they don't, there's some sort of explanation to say, hey, this one is medical, this one is recreational. All those things are things that we kind of help out with those nuances with as well. Um,
okay.
yeah. So yeah, and I guess in a nutshell, that would kind of be it.
Nice. That's the secret sauce. So, not to dive too much into your processes, because, like I said, it is your secret sauce. Is it just something as simple as like an API integration that's not working? Do you manually have to port things over? Like, is there like a new integration that you need to make by syncing up multiple softwares? Like, what typically is the fix for this, or what should dispensary owners look out for and be like, okay, like I should let me at least give this a shot to see how I can fix this myself?
Makes sense. So yeah, it usually boils down to like an API integration type thing.
Mm,
So making sure that they have the proper API. In many cases, they have an old API from their point of sale system. So because these like the cannabis point of sale systems are relatively newer, and there's a lot of them, they kind of pop up randomly. And then you have some that are more established, Trees, Flow Hub, just to name a couple. Their APIs update like periodically. So if you have like a V1 or version 1, and then they've come out with a version 2 3 months later, now your menu is kind of thrown off on the Weedmap side. So you may have products that are sold out that are still popping up on there.
mm,
You may have products that you guys haven't had in months that are now appearing on there because it's from the old integration. So
right.
those type of things are things that GMs, management, owners usually aren't typically paying attention to.
Right.
So once the issue comes up, it ends up being a bad review, right? If I'm a new guy coming in or a new gal coming in and I'm looking for XYZ and it said you guys had it on here, now I'm showing up and the explanation isn't that it's sold out. It's that, oh, we have an issue with our POS system and it's showing blah, 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 blah. Like that's not what the customer wants to hear. We want our product.
Yeah.
So, a guy like me comes in and I'm able to, keep those updates going. Whenever the newest integration comes out, I'm constantly in communication with Dutchy and Trees and Flow Hub, whoever it might be. I've got relationships there so that we can make sure those updates are always going to be on par. The menu is always going to be up to date, and Weedmaps is going to make sure it's making you guys money. You know what I mean?
Nice, nice. Okay, cool. That all makes sense now. Now I have a much better idea of everything that's
Yes.
going on.
It doesn't get too
Um,
technical on my side, but it gets technical enough to the point where it's like, we need to make sure we're keeping on top of all these things
exactly,
going on.
exactly. No, that all makes sense. So, so you've dealt with a lot of stores, right? Like you said, both in different states and in
Mhm.
sizes and maturity and stuff like that, right? So, like, what are you seeing the differences between like your typical mom and pop store versus like it doesn't necessarily have to be like an MSO, but like more, I guess you use the word mature. Like, what's the difference between just like a single owner operator that owns one store that wears all the hats to somebody that is running a much more efficient business, can open up 4, 5, 6 stores and still not kind of like lose their head with all the things that's going on.
Yeah. So a couple things for that, I think. So with the bigger stores, I guess that would go back to them just being more built out in general usually. So we have like larger shops here, larger companies here in Michigan.
Mhm.
So the larger ones, I would say, would probably be between 5 or more stores. You know what I mean? Like usually those are some of the big dogs here. And then smaller operators, I would say 2 or less. You know, something like that, because usually they're the ones that are wearing most of the hats. They're not paying attention to as much that's going on the marketing side as the bigger guys.
Mhm.
The bigger guys are usually planning pretty far ahead, right? So in January, they're planning for like 420 and 710. And,
Mm.
they're making sure that we've got, vendor days set up every week or every month or whatever the case is. They have so many more things built out because there's a larger operation at hand, right? We've got 5 different cities we're dealing with and 6 shops. We got to make sure that we're bringing people into all these shops, because the biggest thing is the investors. They have to make sure that these investors and these guys at the top are still making their money, because as quickly as a lot of these big shops open up here in Michigan, they can shut down just as quickly. I'm not sure if you heard in the news recently. I'm not sure if you probably even heard about it in Canada, but the biggest Michigan operator called Skymint recently pretty much went down. They went under.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
didn't know that. No,
yeah,
no.
they're in like receivership through the banks. Didn't reach a lot of different markers for their revenue.
Damn.
So big thing with those, like, companies just like that. The reason why I'm speaking on it is because that's the biggest, or was the biggest operator in
Yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah.
So you see
Because they didn't
situations.
work with us. That's why.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you see you see situations like that, and it's like, you can be a juggernaut and you can easily be taken down. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy. You know what I mean? If you want to kind of think of it that way.
Damn. Yeah, that's really interesting. So essentially, to summarize, you have like trying to expand to so many different states and cities and all these different things, and something as simple or something as small as an integration not lining up for one store means maybe one or two or a few bad reviews. But if that same integration doesn't line up for somebody that owns 25 stores, then that means that it has a larger cascading effect and a larger compounding effect, because you're a bigger business just by nature of it. There are more
100%.
things that you can miss, right?
100%.
So the thing that makes the big players is also the things that makes the big players lose, because they're, even though they're able to properly plan what they think the big things are, like the vendor days, like the discount days, like the 420 sale, like the summer day sale, whatever it is, they're kind of like, I would say, clouded by all of these things where it's like, we got to hit our Q1 revenue mark. We got to hit our Q2 revenue mark.
Yeah.
And it's very, even though to your point, you said that this is very longer term thinking, it is very long. It's short term revenue thinking, though, in that it's like, with investors, like, we got to make our money now. We got to make it immediately. Like, if we don't hit our targets this month, then like we're screwed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you need to kind of ensure that on the operation side things go well, so you don't have this death by a thousand cuts situation where it's just like, well, we hit our revenue marks but we're losing money just
Yeah.
in and out, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you say that, because I kind of like think about that again, like within the stuff that I'm doing just in general. It's like, there are so many things that we're just thinking of every single day, but we lose kind of like the smaller things, but we think it's small, and then at some point it's just not small anymore.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of learnings from exactly what you said. So like, if whoever's listening, if you own 1, 2, 3 dispensaries, it's very, very important for you to get your SOPs and all of those things set up properly. Make sure you're running one good store, so then you can run 2 good stores. Don't run one mediocre store, and just because you have some money, open up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stores, right? Open up one, run a good one, open up a second one, run a good second one, and then find the good people to put it in place so that you can then continue moving forward. Is that the general gist of kind of like what's going on?
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, even to piggyback on that point, like, once you become one of those larger stores that are able to come in and open up another location and another location, I think like some of the keys to that are being like vertically integrated as well, right? Because if you can have your own product in there, and you're selling your own product, you control that price point and kind of like that whole geographic market, if you will, versus like maybe a smaller guy who's still purchasing product from another brand, or several other brands. They're now being controlled by whatever that market price is. So it's a little more difficult for that may be one of the points, I guess, to your last question. One of the bigger differences between like a larger company, what they're able to do versus like one of those smaller ones too, if you're not fully vertically integrated too.
Right, right. And are you seeing most of the big dogs be vertically integrated? Is that like kind of like I guess the model moving forward? Like you can't scale to that size without being vertically integrated because you're just getting crushed by margins. Is that typically how it works?
Yeah, I'm gonna say like any shop that usually has 5 or more locations usually has a pretty big growth somewhere within the mitten.
Right.
And yeah, even if they have maybe two locate, even sometimes they have one, they're still vertically integrated.
Mm,
I think it just kind of all depends on really like the capital that you have behind you on that side, because that's like an entirely different finance. Once you go
right.
from like that licensing and the retail side, like those are two big beasts as far as like some financial, you know, juggernauts there. So yeah, I would say being fully integrated definitely helps. I don't know. That's an interesting one because anyone can kind of be fully integrated if you have the money to do it and the space
Yeah.
and the, the retail location and also the cultivation location. But I mean, all in all, it's definitely going to help in general, with the
Yeah.
margins because you won't have to purchase from outside sources.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, that's very interesting because like same thing, right? Vertically integrated, you're bigger, probably more problems, more operational
Mhm.
inefficiencies, but you're making more money. So, we'll see. Well, whoever comment, just say, if you'd rather be vertically integrated or not, you want the hassle of all that stuff, or you just want to run a super lean store.
Yeah,
That'll be
it can
interesting.
be done. Keep those relationships tight. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So on the marketing side, let's talk. Because so you're big in Weedmaps, and like their big thing was programmatic or the equivalent of within their platform and stuff like that. Because
Hmm.
you really can't advertise anywhere else. So you have programmatic, and then you have like SEO, and those are like the two kind of main forms of marketing.
Yeah.
What are you seeing kind of like in that space, programmatic versus SEO? Effectiveness, kind of cost between the two, how you would kind of manage it if you're running your own dispensary. What does that look like on your side?
Good question. So, programmatic versus SEO, they definitely have their own spaces, and how they're utilized and how they benefit each shop. But I'm probably gonna say like the big dog in that one is gonna be SEO,
Mm,
just simply because programmatic is a lot more strategic. The programmatic almost, I think, like reaches out and kind of like taps the consumer on the shoulder when they're not even looking for
yeah,
the solution for whatever their thing is as of yet. If I'm searching on Nike.com and I'm looking for Air Force Ones, and then like Weedmaps pops up over here, how much does that help me because I'm looking for shoes right now? You know what I mean? So
exactly. Need to
you
walk
know,
around right now.
like I'm looking to go to the gym or something. So like,
Yeah, yeah,
weed shoppers or cannabis shoppers, I think are more direct on, when I want it, I'm out of cannabis. Now I need to shop for it. Like that's usually when it happens. It's not like I'm just looking for weed anytime. So the SEO portion, which I think more reaches out to the consumer at the time when they're actually looking for that solution, I think is going to be a little bit more powerful. Because again, it's like, okay, now I'm out of weed, or I got my last gram right here. I'm about to roll it up. I need to search for some more cannabis. So where am I going to go? Google, blah, 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 blah. So that's going to be to me a little bit more powerful because it's reaching out to the consumers at the point of purchase versus tapping me on my shoulder saying, hey, do you want some weed right now? You know what I mean? It's a different feeling. So I'm definitely going to say, to answer your question in a long-winded way, the SEO
mhm,
is going to be to me kind of like the big brother, but programmatic is still going to be um, very useful because again, even in those instances, hey, whether I'm looking for something else, there may be a time where, hey, if it's the right type of advertisement on that programmatic, it may grab my attention, right? So
yeah,
in the scenario where I was telling you about the shop that opened up on 420, you know what I mean? If it's April 1st or April 15th, and
yeah,
I'm looking for gym shoes, I might be enticed by this shop opening up 2 blocks from me in 5 days. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So in those instances, yeah, it could definitely be beneficial, which in those cases are um most times when I actually recommend it. When I'm dealing with my clients, when they're talking about programmatic, it's like, well, what do we have coming up? Is it an anniversary? Is it a vendor day? Are we having a grand opening? Because that's really what's going to bring that awareness play, which is going to be more beneficial for programmatic, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. I say the exact same thing. I mean, like, look, if you're looking for, you have that whole like awareness, conversion, loyalty type. So I don't know if I walked you through this, but like kind of the way that I view marketing, what I tell my clients is that if you need sales, you need to focus on one of these three things or all or two, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
awareness, conversion, and loyalty, right? Awareness, people need to know you exist in the first place because if they don't, then it doesn't matter. The
Right.
second one is then conversion, right? You need to convert the people that know you exist into paying customers because it doesn't matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't convert them into paying customers. And then the third one that I've been emphasizing a lot lately is like the loyalty. It's if you get customers to shop at your store and they never end up leaving, you never actually need to make a new sale ever again
Right.
because your service, your products, everything is so good that you become the barber shop of your customers, where you know that those customers are coming back because if you don't, that barber's not going to cut your hair because you know that
Exactly.
you betrayed them, right? So there's no such thing as a zero churn, right, or a zero turnover for customers, but if you want to hit a specific revenue mark, whether it's $50,000 a month, $100,000 a month, or $1,000,000 a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are X amount of customers that will fulfill that based on X amount of orders. And if those customers just never leave, then you're in a good position, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I focus a lot on those three main things. So the two marketing strategies that we're talking about, the SEO part, is that like it's very good conversion because to your point, the buyer intent is there, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
people aren't going around saying burgers near me and just for fun.
Right. Right.
They're not
Right.
just like, checking it out and being like, I wonder what the burger shops are doing today. They're like, no, like I
Exactly.
want a burger,
I
right?
want a burger right now. So.
Exactly. I want a burger right now. So like if I'm showing up on Google and I sell burgers and somebody's looking for me for burgers, they're probably going to buy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then on the awareness side, it's not like on SEO where on SEO, people have to already have that kind of feeling for burgers, right? But if there's somebody that's like, maybe I can go for a burger or pasta or pizza or sushi or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe one ad can grab them and say, this is the juiciest burger in town. We literally just opened, right? This is our grand opening. And we
Yeah.
have one shot to make the best first impression. So you better be here because this burger is probably going to be the best burger you've ever had.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, damn.
Can I get a free fry? Is there a free fry in there too or something?
Exactly.
Like
Free
a
fries.
little
It's like, you know
promo?
what
Yeah.
I mean? Now that I think about it, that'd be a nice little catchphrase. I'm like, like this is our chance to give you a good first impression, and we're giving you fresh fries. So like,
Yeah.
this is gonna
Yeah.
be a good time. Anyways,
I'm going. I'm going for sure.
yeah, exactly, right. But you don't do that with SEO because I wasn't, with SEO, you don't grab outside of kind of like the buyer intent thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on the awareness side, to your point, with like the grand openings and all of these things, it is good to drive awareness. But I always tell my clients, like, look, like, you know, having a good SEO foundation will give you a longer term ROI. And then if you have silly money to play, not silly money, but if you have extra money where you're like, hey, Brandon, I want to put some more money into something. What do you recommend? I'm like, okay, let's give programmatic a shot because then you can test more. You can test
Mm-hmm.
more creatives. You can do more A/B testing. You can test if a 15% discount on a pre-roll is better than a 10% discount on flour. You
Yep.
can test if a discount on a Thursday is better on a Monday. Like you can test all of these things, right? You can't really
Mm-hmm.
do the same thing for SEO. So the flexibility is what I think is the advantage of these kind of paid platforms. But then again, like they're also super expensive, right? Like you're spending a lot of money to kind of get this working. And typically what I found whenever people come to me and say, hey, Brandon, I need some marketing help. I'm using Weedmaps, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
They spend like 50,000, like a lot of money, right? Like a lot of friggin' money. And then what ends up happening, they're like, look, like the reason why I'm spending this money is because like they have me in a chokehold. Like if I stop spending money with them, then then I won't be able to make any money because like this is the money that I need, right? So
Yeah.
I find it funny. So I wean them off the drug that is programmatic ads, and I'm like, look, let's just set aside some of your programmatic ads budget. Let's do some SEO. And then over time, we can kind of like wean off, kind of this programmatic ad stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how the conversations go. But I think both are super, super powerful. And I don't think it's like either or. I always think you need a good SEO strategy, like non-biased aside for me. Like just if it's not me, like go find someone else to do the SEO
Mm-hmm.
strategy, right? But programmatic ads, I think with people who know what they're doing, like yourself, I think it makes a lot more sense. Because again, I think a lot of people in the dispensary space, they go and they say, "Hey, yeah, I spent $30,000, but I made $120,000, and I just put it into this platform." Then
Mhm.
other people are just going to put it into this platform, but not do the optimization stuff. Simple things
Right.
like A/B testing, testing out different creative, testing out different copy. Like, between you and me, like that's I don't think very many people think that way. Like if they're not advertisers and they're just dispensary owners, that's just at least that's kind of what I'm seeing in space right
No, 100%. No, you head on with it. Like the optimization portion is like it's everything that you need in the sauce to make what is profitable. You know
now.
what
Yeah.
I mean? It's like you just can't just I always use the billboard thing, like putting a billboard like in the middle of the desert, and it's like
Yep.
you got this billboard you paid like $200,000 for. It's got diamonds around it and all this shit, and it's like now we can't even like no one's gonna see it because it's two people passing it on the Mojave Desert. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like we have to make it optimal to everyone who is engaged with this activity. You know what I mean? So that makes uh, optimization probably the most important aspect to me as far as like your marketing goes, and that's whether it comes from print or text message or internet or whatever it is. Like you want to optimize it to its fullest extent. So, you know what I mean? Like let's make this thing a fully loaded vehicle, and then let's drive it off the lot. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. No, okay, that's cool. That's cool. So we also spoke about weed maps for delivery versus for dispensaries. So
mhm.
another guest that I had on, he crushes the delivery game, especially in California.
Dope.
He's absolutely crushing it. And the main things for him, and again, is like SEO is one portion, but because they don't have that physical location, they don't have the benefit of having that Google Maps in one specific area so that people can go to. Right? Not saying it's
Mhm.
not as effective. Not is it isn't effective. Just typically isn't as effective for someone that has the physical location. Right. So how
Mhm.
are you seeing kind of Weedmaps being leveraged in the delivery space versus being leveraged on the dispensary side of things?
Another good question. So, work with I've worked with companies on both sides, growing
Yeah.
deliveries, and then growing dispensaries as well. So, I think the biggest differentiator between the two is leveraging Weedmaps on the delivery side gives you more visibility because you get to have multiple like pins located wherever you pretty much want them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're like a dispensary, you can only be in one spot where you're physically located at that
Yeah.
address. And then I think they also give you a different product as well where you can have something like one town over. You can have like a logo there, but
Do you
you
need to
aren't
pay
gonna
extra for that? Is that how that works? Like
yeah.
how?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna
Okay.
pay extra for that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then you're also only gonna appear in one space in that town and in the town that you're in. So it kind of works like I guess like almost like a billboard too, like digitally, but
Digital build.
you only get so much screen time because you're only located in one space on that second pin when you're a dispensary. So just to my point, like the major advantage if I'm a delivery, right, and I'm just now starting off, and maybe it's just me and you as me are the drivers. I can, if I want to, put 15 pins out and just say that I cover these areas.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't the same for each state, right? Because in certain states, you may have to have hubs, or it may have to be, products so far away from, wherever your hub is in certain states. But let's just take, for instance, like California. In California, it can just be me and you as drivers, and I can have like 15 different pins and say I serve all of these different areas. Now, the quality of that is up to me and you on getting to these different areas within the
Right.
time that we say we can. But the opportunity is there. If you understand what I'm saying. So if I'm in 15 different areas, right, and these are high Weedmaps users or high, Weedmaps or weed consumers here, there's a greater chance of me probably making more money in that month than a dispensary that I have to drive to or that everyone has to drive to,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So it's gonna be more advantageous, I think, for a shop to either have both, right? I have a dispensary here, and maybe I have like some part-time drivers who come in and kind of knock out these deliveries for me to maximize, my weed maps or even my overall cannabis spend because now I offer all these services. But in general, you're going to have a lot more opportunity to make more money, I believe, as a delivery in a quicker time than as a shop or retail shop, because you just have more opportunity where you can just put your name pretty much everywhere at one time.
Right. And so I'm seeing a lot of reviews as well on Weedmaps. How does the review generation process take place on Weedmaps? Does whenever somebody place an order on Weedmaps, does it prompt them to write a review on the platform itself? Because I'm typically seeing, just on average, more reviews on Weedmaps than like on Google, for example.
Mm. So, a good thing about Weedmaps, or a thing that we used to tell them on Weedmaps, is that the more reviews they get, or the better reviews they get, obviously that star rating gets higher. So
Hmm.
it does. And again, I haven't been there in quite a few months, so don't quote me on this. But at the time I was there, once you put a review on there, it should immediately populate on that page, on that Weedmaps
Hmm.
client's page. And essentially that should determine like their star rating, or how far that goes up or down, or however they choose. And then at the time I was there, I believe that certain reviews got counted as like a verified review. So maybe me as
Hmm.
Jack, I'm signed in on Weedmaps, right? I'm logged in as an actual registered member. So mine is a verified review, which may appear a bit higher. Whereas you, Brandon, are just brand new to Weedmaps, and you're just on here as a guest. I just want to leave a review. I had a good experience. Your review may pop up a few places lower than a few verified reviews there. So there is like certain algorithms there that kind of, I would say, prompt more reviews. Because if I'm a shop, I'm gonna want as many reviews as possible to show my quality level.
Right.
And then if I have more verified reviews, it's gonna just make my review screen look a lot more robust, because now I've got 200 reviews and 50 of those have blue checks. You know what I mean? So it's really all about perception. A lot of it is about perception when it comes to Weedmaps as well. Who's got the bells and whistles? They even have something that comes out periodically called the best of Weedmaps. So if you do X amount of things on the website, um, you'll get these trophies, or these recognitions, to
Yeah.
say, hey, this is the best shop here, this is the best delivery here. So there's a bunch of different things that go into that, which I have no idea about them now. But at one point when I was there, this was something that shops look forward to. You know what I mean? And again, it's perception. It's like, hey, now we're on a different section of Weedmaps that says, hey, we are in the best of Weedmaps. We're some of the best here in Detroit, because I do X, Y, and Z to get to this level. And usually those are the people who do use a lot of those optimizations, right? Their menu is mostly verified. Their, this, that, and the third is all put together. So it's one synchronized ecosystem, and it gives the user a better experience, which I
Right.
fully agree with. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just makes it better for a user. So
Okay, awesome. That makes sense.
yeah.
So you're not at Weedmaps anymore.
No,
So
I know a
we
lot
could take
about it. I can help you guys
it.
with it. This is all knowledge that I can
Exactly,
give you
right?
once I'm there.
Exactly, exactly. So let's take it back to more about you. So back to the POS Posse stuff.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that, or we spoke about how you essentially help run their business. Like, if you're just put in one sentence, right? From a operational efficiency standpoint, you help them run better. So what are we, what should we keep our eye on for what you got going on in the future? What
So
kind of big plans you got going on?
yeah, yeah. So
In
right
the
now, I
coming months?
mean, I'm working with a few different brands in Michigan right now. So the biggest thing with me is I'm just trying to like pretty much get my name out there more in Detroit. I work
Yeah.
with about 4 brands right now. We've been doing pretty well, actually, really well, as far as just like growing their whole popularity, I would say, in Michigan, to help that product move more, which is pretty much getting them into more dispensaries. And then those dispensaries are able to move more product, because those brands are a lot more popular. The thing that I would like people to know about me, especially in Detroit, is that there is a need, whether you guys probably think so or not, to manage. Make sure you guys are managing all of your guys' digital menus. So
Mm.
whether that be, again, Weedmaps, whether it be Leafly, whether it be your own website, which you guys may need help with, Point of Sale Posse, POS Posse, which is my company, we are able to assist with all of those needs, as far as making those integrations seamless, and as far as also just general digital retail management. So all those things that we kind of named earlier, brand verification, all those things, we're able to help out with that. And also, if you guys check out my website as well, we're able to help out with many other things for brands, retail, and delivery who are also just now starting. So if you guys need graphic design, if you guys need website creation, we're able to help out with that as well. So right here in Detroit, we're able to help you guys out. POS Posse.
Nice. POSposse.com, guys. Make sure you go visit. And
Yes.
then I guess the last question, for the dispensary owners out there.
Oh, let me throw this in here real quick. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Also, what's going on with me as well is we also just started Strong Stoners.
I guess
Yeah,
plug
so
away.
yeah, that is actually I would call it a vlog, maybe whatever you guys want to call it, but it's just a series we created with people who like to indulge in cannabis products pre and post workout. So just shots of us pretty much going in there, having a session, maybe some dabs, some joints, going there, getting an intense workout in, lifting some heavy weights, and coming back out for another session and just showing everybody, hey, if we can do it as stoners, you guys can also stay healthy as well. So follow the hashtag strong as stoners. That's STRONGASSTRONG. So as strong as stoners. Are you strong as a stoner? All right.
Cannabis marketing is not liable for anybody that is injured while lifting weights while high.
No. We want you to do it at your own level, but just you
I'm
can do
kidding.
it if we can do it.
I'm messing around. So last but not least, for all the dispensary owners listening out there, based on your reference experiences of what you've seen in the space, right? However way you want to define the next level, what would you say dispensary owners need to do to take their business to the next level?
Man, I'm gonna say two of the biggest things, and this might be a little. I'm gonna keep it short. I won't keep it long-winded. So,
No. It's okay.
two of the biggest things I'm gonna say is be knowledgeable about the cannabis industry. Just have some knowledge about the cannabis industry in general, whether it's the plant, whether it's concentrate, whether it's CBD, whatever component of. Just have some knowledge of, hey, this is a plant, a medicine for people, and it can be used in these fashions. Just have some level of knowledge of that as a business owner. I understand that there's a lot of business involved with running a cannabis shop, just like running any other business. So you have like that business mind frame, but just sometime, maybe once, twice a week, take off the business cap and just put on the cap of, hey, this is a cannabis plant, and what would the person using this plant think if they were to come into my establishment? That's how I would think of that. So that's point number one. And then point number two, I guess would almost piggyback on this because I've had some bad experience with this myself, and that is also having knowledgeable staff members. I think that's really, really important because everyone doesn't have a weed man, right? We like, that's why dispensaries are here. Everyone didn't just have someone we can call and say, hey, you got blah, 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 let me come get an eighth. Many people found cannabis through dispensaries. So the person on the other end of that counter needs to have a good amount of knowledge in what I'm coming in and looking for. Quick example for that is I went into a shop not long ago and I was looking for live resin. And he points over to this product and it's a brand that I know. I'm like, oh, I love this brand. Let me try out this one. And I think it might have been called like Mac 1 or something like that, right? Let's just say it was called Mac 1. Grab the product, pay for it, leave out, jump in the car, get home, open it up, and it is THCA. It is not live resin. It is not THC. It is THCA, which is a completely different component of the plant, different effects, all of the above. You already know. But this is simply like, obviously it was, on me for not checking the product before I left, but ultimately the budtender should have known, you know what I mean, that this is THCA. This is not one of our THC products. So just a quick story like that. But yeah, just having knowledgeable people in there behind the counter makes the world of a difference for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, to just kind of piggyback on what you just said, like at the end of the day, the people who are serving the product are the people front facing, right? And they're the ones that are going to be impacted on the Google reviews if people come back and stuff like that, right? And if we are, and I don't like to quantify customers in terms of how much they spend, but in general, if we were to quantify people who spend more money and spend less money, right? The connoisseurs, if you will spend more money on better product, different types of product, experiment with different things. So instead of a $40 cart size, you, for example, might be an $80 cart size because you're grabbing the thing that you like and saying, hey, let me give this a shot, right? But the less that the bud tender knows, and even if the bud tender knows less than the person that they're selling to, that is a missed opportunity on what people would call like a higher value customer. And again, like, don't quantify your customers by how much money they give you. That's not a good idea at all. But just for the purposes of this kind of conversation, right? I would say you, a more educated consumer, is typically going to spend more than somebody looking to pick up 5 pre-rolls for their friends on a weekend just for a party because it's somebody's birthday, right? And just never come back, right? So just to kind of, again, on Jack's point, guys, it's very, very important that you take a look at your employees. It's not good enough for you to just be like, yeah, I got a student for minimum wage and I'm just going to put them in the shop. And because, all of this stuff, you need to do proper training and ensure that you can at least know kind of what the customers answer, and then you can kind of build out the SOPs for everyone going
100%.
So, but Jack, just wanted to say thank you very much for hopping on the show once more. Everyone, POSposse.com is his website, and then is it the Instagram? That's the strong ass lifters. That's the thing again?
Yeah. Well, the Instagram, it's more so of a hashtag now. I think I still got to create Instagram. It's relatively new. I just started like a few weeks ago. So strong ass stoners is a hashtag right now. But yeah, you can find it on there somewhere.
Okay, cool. So strong ass stoners, spelled strong as stoners. Everyone, thank you once again. I'm forever grateful for those that listen to this podcast. I'm getting more and more people reach out and say they actually listen to it, which is awesome. But you know who I am already. Brandon Kwan, founder of Cannabis Marketing, the #1 marketing agency for dispensaries in both Canada and United States. And that's another episode, and I'll catch you guys next time. See you later. Bye.